Hi, I'm Miranda Cosgrove, and this is Mission Unstoppable. Coming up, meet a woman giving these pups a leg up.
What do you think, Trip? Do you like it?
Yeah.
Then, you're gonna lava this story on Volcanologists. You probably already know, don't go close to an active volcano. And do you know how many noses you have?
If you said one, then wait till you get a whiff of what I'm about to tell you.
Plus, discover how physics gives your makeup its sparkle. Get ready to meet the scientists, inventors, and heroes who help make our world a better place. The future is here. The mission, unstoppable. What has 3 legs and is super cute? It's not a riddle. It's a dog named Trip. And we're gonna learn how a little technology is making his life better. Across the US, over 2 million dogs are adopted from shelters each year. Thousands of these rescued dogs join their new households with injuries or impairments to their legs. And while these pups have no problem loving their adopted families, they might struggle to walk, run, or play with their new pack. Which is why Lydia Mindek, Director of Operations at 3D Pets, is working to give these pups a leg or a wheel up.
I've always loved science and technology. I went to school for industrial design where I focused on veterinary medicine within product design, and I knew that whatever I was going to do for my career had to have something to do with animals.
After graduating college, Lydia took a job at a veterinarian's emergency room where she met Trip and fell in love at first sight. Trip was born with a congenital defect from poor breeding practices, and he had to have his front leg removed when he was just 4 months old. After his surgery, Lydia adopted Trip and gave him a loving home. In return, Trip helped Lydia make a major career move.
Trip inspired me to help more pets like him because a lot of times they don't get the chance to live long, full, happy lives like other normal pets do.
Now, Lydia combines her passion for pets and her love of engineering to create prosthetics and wheelchairs that help disabled dogs improve their mobility.
Donnie! Beautiful.
We're always using new technologies to advance our devices, and our devices incorporate a lot of basic engineering principles, such as hinges for our folding elbows and wheels and pulley systems for our carts.
Today, Trip is going to be fitted for a new prosthetic leg. The first step requires the team to take photogrammetry readings or a 3D scan of Trip's body with a smartphone.
Good boy!
These scans help Lydia's team to create a custom-fitted harness that holds onto the prosthetic and can be 3D printed right in their shop.
So here you can see Trip's custom 3D printed jacket, which we just finished making on the computer with all of the information that we needed. We printed this jacket on one of our FDM 3D printers, which stands for Fused Deposition Modeling.
Fused Deposition Modeling.
And essentially all that means is that this printer uses this filament, extrudes it here, and prints layer by layer until it builds its finished 3D object, which in this case is Trip's harness. We make these harnesses out of a flexible material called TPU, which stands for thermoplastic polyurethane. And the reason we do that is because dogs aren't static, they move a lot. When dogs breathe, their chest expands, and we want their harness to do the same thing. It also allows us to have enough rigidity where their leg is going to be mounted, so it gives them enough support.
During the post-processing, Lydia uses a blowtorch to smooth everything out, then assembles the harness. She fits the harness with soft cushioning material to make sure it's comfortable for the pup.
Our next step is to get a measurement of his leg length so that we can cut and make a custom leg for Trip that is the correct height for him.
Prosthetic legs are made from aluminum or carbon fiber and are engineered to fit into the harness at a point that helps the dog achieve maximum mobility. Some prosthetics are developed with rubber feet, while others use wheels. Each is adaptable to the dog's needs. With everything in place, it's time to see what Trip thinks.
What do you think, Trip? Do you like it?
Yeah.
Sounds like he's ready to go play with his friends.
I feel incredibly proud of Trip and everything that he's accomplished. My favorite part of my job is to see these dogs be free and happy and live up to their full potential and honestly just be able to do things that every other dog with 4 legs can do.
How do you study an active volcanic eruption spewing out molten rock at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit? You need nerves of steel, a dedication to science, and a little help from your soulmate. Get your cup ready. The stem tea has never been hotter. Okay, let's talk about volcanoes for a sec. What is a volcano? A super angry mountain? Well, no. Volcanic terrain is formed simply by erupting lava. It piles up, slowly accumulating over time. According to the US Geological Survey, volcanoes are openings or vents where lava, steam, and small rocks called tephra erupt onto Earth's surface. Not counting underwater volcanoes, there are over 1,350 active volcanoes worldwide, each with their own unique characteristics. But until the 20th century, very little was known about how we should respond to volcanic eruptions and what they look like up close. That is, until a French woman named Katia Krafft erupted onto the scene in the mid-1900s, becoming one of the most important volcanologists of all time. Together with her husband and closest research partner, Maurice Krafft, Katia published a plethora of scientific research papers, 20 books, as well as indispensable photographs and video footage. Their documentation led to a greater understanding of the nature of eruptions. Once they arrived at the scene of an active volcano, the Kraffts would collect viscosity measurements and gas readings, even going as close as a few feet away from the eruption to take mineral samples. Our legal team says that I have to say this, though you probably already know, don't go close to an active volcano. The Kraffts were instrumental in developing techniques for mapping volcanic hazards and even predicting when eruptions would happen. Their detailed observations helped advance early warning systems for volcanic events and helped create maps that identified areas at risk from volcanic activity. The samples taken by the Kraffts of the composition of volcanic gases were also helpful for public safety by helping scientists understand the chemical makeup of volcanic plumes. This knowledge was, and still is, crucial for assessing potential hazards to human health and the environment. The Kraffts also extensively studied pyroclastic flows, which are extremely hot, fast-moving currents of gas and volcanic matter. Their research improved understanding of this deadly phenomena, leading to better safety measures for communities living near active volcanoes. To the great disappointment of their friends and the world, the couple lost their lives, along with 40 others, during the eruption of Mount Unzen in Japan on June 3, 1991. Their dedication to volcanology brought them to dangerous places, but they believed careful observation and documentation was critical to understanding volcanoes. And because of this incredible pair, our understanding is forever changed. Cheers to Katia and Maurice Krafft, mom and dad to volcano fans everywhere. In the world of dreams, any fantasy is possible thanks to the magic of imagination. But wake up! We're in the real world right now, and we're doing science stuff. Pay attention.
If I ask you how many eyes you have, I'm guessing you'll get the right answer. Ears, you'll probably nail that one too. But what about noses? How many do you think you have? If you said 1, then wait till you get a whiff of what I'm about to tell you. Today, we're sniffing out the science behind why humans technically have 2 noses. Hey, I'm pharmacist Dr. Harini Bhatt, and I love to yap about health and biology. Welcome to Bhatt's Biology Corner. Also, I've got to say it, I'm a doctor, but I'm not your doctor. This info is not a substitute for professional medical advice. It might impress your friends, though. While at face value, your nose appears to be one structure, it's actually comprised of 2 separate organs, each with an individual nasal cavity and external opening, or nostril. You can think of your noses as robust air filtration systems that constantly filter pathogens and allergens from the air you breathe. Bet you didn't know you have an HVAC system on your face. As air enters your nostrils, it passes through teeny tiny hair-like structures called cilia. cilia trap all of the dirt, particles, and general icky things that don't pass the vibe check. Bony structures covered in tissue called turbinates warm and moisten the clean air so it can move comfortably into your lungs. This constant cleansing process can seriously dry out the nostrils, so our two nose organs take alternating shifts on dirt detecting duty. Throughout the day, when one of our noses decides it needs a little snooze, its tissues swell to restrict airflow. This can feel like congestion, but it's also likely you don't even know when it's happening. Since not as much air can pass through your congested nose, it's able to let some moisture build back up along its nasal cavity. Your nose is just taking a breather so you can breathe. While one side is resting, the other side, known as the dominant nose, is what keeps you breathing. Your dominant nose will alternate from one side to the other in a constant cycle, shifting every 2 hours or so. This process is called the nasal cycle. You can probably even test which one of your noses is on the clock right now. Cover one nostril and breathe in and out. Now cover your other nostril and do the same thing. Feels nice, right? Did you notice that it was easier to breathe out of one side compared to the other? That is your dominant nose hard at work. But wait, here's another fun trick I've learned. A super quick way to hijack your nasal cycle is to apply pressure to your armpit. Okay, so smell me out. The nasal system is connected to your armpit through your sympathetic nervous system. By applying pressure to the underarm on the opposite side of the congested nostril, you can stimulate nerves that constrict blood flow, which should trick your nasal cycle into alternating. And that's not just a weird thing I discovered one day on my own, thank you very much. There are records from ancient India of yoga practitioners using a wooden crutch called a yoga danda underneath one armpit to help force a restart of their nasal cycle during meditation. In case you don't have a spare yoga danda lying around, try sticking a tennis ball underneath your armpit for a few minutes and see if you can change your dominant nose. You should then quickly come up with a good excuse when someone walks in on you with a tennis ball under your armpit. Don't mind me, I'm just trying to manipulate my nasal cycle. That's all for this Bots Biology Corner. Smell you later.
Physics can answer some of our world's toughest questions, like what is reality? And how big is the universe? Or even, what makes eyeshadow shimmer? We sent Fig to get an answer to that last one.
Oh, I'm just checking the optics of my makeup. I have to tell you, I'm not really sure what that means, but our next guest, Dr. Jessica Esquivel, who is a particle physicist, is going to teach me all about the physics behind makeup.
Come on in. But before she can teach me about makeup, she has to teach me what a particle physicist is.
Being a particle physicist means that I study the smallest building blocks of the universe with the biggest detectors in the country. We think of detectors like big old microscopes that we use to look at things that are really, really small.
And although this branch of physics is highly theoretical, it does have some practical uses.
Particle physicists actually invented the internet. We wanted a way to transfer data from one site to another. And that is the beginnings of the internet, and now we use it all the time in every device.
So besides completely changing the world, particle physicists are also changing how we see the world. Today, Jessica's going to show me how light particles can interact with the building blocks of makeup to create really cool effects.
Why don't you put a little bit of pigment on the back of your hand, and I'll do the same.
I think I'm gonna try this blue.
Do you see how shiny that is?
This is awesome.
So it's because of a mineral called mica, and what cosmetic scientists do is grind this up into a fine powder, add a little bit of pigment to it, and you get this really amazing, shiny, shimmery powder that we're seeing right here.
Wow, that is so interesting.
So mica is birefringent. You can send unpolarized light, so light that goes up, down, left, and right, through mica, and what comes out of it is actually light that's split in two.
Birefringent? Huh? It's a scientific term for something that separates one ray of light into two rays of light that travel at different speeds. To demonstrate this, Jessica and I hold up polarizer filters which divide light waves into a single plane.
So what I want you to do is hold your filter up and tell me what you see.
I see the light shining through.
Okay, so now start rotating your filter.
Oh wow, it stopped the light.
The filters are only allowing light that is moving horizontally to pass through. So when I turn my filter vertically, it stops the light.
So now let's get our mica sheet and put it in between our polarizers and see what happens.
Wow, that is so cool. I can see so many different colors. There's like red and blue and green.
The ability of mica to split light into two beams is what allows makeup to shimmer. And the reason we're seeing color is because the mica acts like a prism and reflects the different colors that make up white light at different angles. The earliest use of mica to make shiny colors can be tracked back to cave paintings. So if mica is old school makeup, then the new school of makeup is photonic crystals, which are tiny sculptures that can manipulate light.
You can kind of imagine it like a little cube with crystals, and it has these things called band gaps. And what that does is allow certain wavelengths of light to pass through the photonic crystal, but blocking all of the other wavelengths.
So scientists could create a photonic crystal that would only allow the wavelength of a certain color to pass through. They wouldn't need to add pigment like they do with mica.
So instead of having this really amazing royal blue, which we've had to add pigment to the mica to give it that shimmer, we can just have a swatch of photonic crystals on our eye that has a band gap that will only allow this blue out.
This is maybe makeup technology of the future.
Definitely.
Photonic crystals can be found all around in nature. For example, they're in butterfly wings, peacock feathers, and beetle scales. Now that we know how light interacts with makeup to give us that luminous look, it's time for Jessica and I to get our glow up on.
I love the green and the blue you used.
Thank
it
you.
matches your hair colors.
Yes.
Who knew that creating fun looks with makeup had so much to do with particles and light? So the next time you put on makeup and think your look is really lit, you'll know it's all because of science.
Welcome back. Before we go, we have one last thing.
If I had to give one piece of advice to young girls who are looking to pursue a career in STEM, it would be to do it. Follow your passion and do what makes you happy and see where it takes you.
If you are a girl or a woman or an underrepresented, minoritized person, it's gonna be harder. People are gonna tell you that you don't belong, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. But I'm here and I did it, and I'm not Einstein. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
That's it for today's Mission Unstoppable. Next week, we're trying to track down some wild geese for a segment. And you wouldn't believe what kind of chase that is. Bye. If you're watching this, you must have really liked the video. Make sure you follow and subscribe, and check out these other videos that are even better. No, really. I've seen this one over 100 times.